Hi folks, a wee surprise broadcast on a Saturday. And what brings Davy to your screens today? Now just give me a wee minute to get Facebook on board. And I'll tell you what's got Davy to your screens today. What brings Davy to your screens today is Kemi Badenoch wins the Tory leadership race. And I thought, oh dear. Now, there was a point where I thought, didn't matter who won the Tory leadership race. But looking at the performance of the Labour Party in the first 5 months, I am, beginning to think there is a point to this. So, Kemi Badenoch and Robert Jenrick were the last two, because James Cleverly managed to cleverly outvote himself, even though he was a queer leader. So, I thought we'd better have a wee look into this woman, get a wee idea of her background. So, it's Kemi Ulufunto Adigoko Badenoch, born 2nd of January 1980, a British politician, and has served as leader of the opposition and leader of the Conservative Party since 2nd November 2024. Today, she previously served in Cabinet under Prime Minister Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. From 2022 to 2024, a member of the Conservative Party, she has served as a Member of Parliament for North West Essex and previously Saffron Walden boundary changes since 2017. In 2012, Badenoch unsuccessfully contested a seat in the London Assembly, but was later appointed a member of the London Assembly after Victoria Broderick resigned upon becoming an MP in 2015. A supporter of Brexit in the 2016 referendum, Badenoch was elected to the House of Commons in 2017. After Boris Johnson became Prime Minister in July 2019, Badenoch was appointed Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Children and Families. Jesus, Mother and God. Children and families. I can't think of anybody least suitable for that job. In February 2020, in the reshuffle, she was appointed Exchequer Secretary to the Treasury and Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Equalities. Jesus, equalities! Wow! In September 2021, she was promoted to Minister of State for Equalities and appointed Minister of State for Local Government, Faith and Communities. Wow. Badenoch resigned from government in protest at Johnson's leadership. She stood unsuccessfully to replace him in the July-September 2022 Conservative Party leadership elections. Following Liz Truss becoming Prime Minister in 2022, Badenoch was appointed Secretary of State for International Trade and President of the Board of Trade, and was sworn in to the Privy Council. She was reappointed Trade Secretary by Truss' successor, Rishi Sunak. The following month, also became Minister for Women and Equalities. In February 2023's Cabinet reshuffle, Badenoch assumed the position of Secretary of State for Business and Trade. Seem to be changing the names of the departments quite regularly, don't they? A lot of that waste will be in new stationery. Following the merging of the Department for International following the merging of the Department of International Trade with elements of Department for Business, Energy and Industry Strategy, Badenoch retained the responsibilities for women and for equities. After the Conservatives' defeat in the 2024 general election, Badenoch was appointed Shadow Secretary of State for Housing, Communities and Local Government in Sunak's shadow cabinet, and later launched a bid to become the leader of the Conservative Party and we're up to date. She won. Now, Badenoch, born in January 1980 in Wimbledon, London, one of 3 children, born to Nigerian parents. Her father, Kemi, was a GP, and her mother, Fair, a professor of psychology. She's a brother and sister. Badenoch spent her childhood living in Lagos, Nigeria, and in the United States, where her mother lectured. She returned to the UK at the age of 16 to live with a friend of her mother's, owing to the deteriorating political and economic situation in Nigeria, which had affected her family. Although a British citizen and born in the UK, during her parliamentary maiden speech, Badenoch stated she was, to all intents and purposes, a first-generation immigrant. Doesn't make sense or standard immigration, does it? Badenoch achieved A-levels from Phoenix College, a further education college in Morden, and whilst working at a branch of McDonald's, so she flipped burgers to get through school, and that makes her working class. Well, her mum and dad were working class and all. She's actually a computer systems engineer, and she's an engineer, a master of engineering actually, so quite bright. And she initially worked in the IT sector, and then went on to do further studies at University of London. Again, she actually graduated with a Bachelor of Law. Badenoch then worked as a systems analyst at the Royal Bank of Scotland Group before pursuing a career in consultancy and financial services, and working as associate director at a private bank and wealth manager at Coutts. So quite an illustrious career before she moved into politics. Now, with such high-powered jobs and obviously earning a fortune, a bit like Sunak and some of the rest of the clowns that were at the top of the Tory party, go to ask yourself, what is her interest in politics? I mean, they live outside the world of the ordinary man and woman. So they're not there to improve the life of the ordinary man and woman. What they're there to do is create a society that makes them feel comfortable. And a society that makes them feel comfortable is a compliant society with a good workforce that keeps its mouth shut, its heads down, and produces more wealth for them. That's their idea of a good society. And that's why we see the way things are going down that road now, where it's becoming more and more and more authoritarian. And that small percentage that holds the majority of the wealth are starting to mould society the way it suits them. And this is a continuation of that. Looking at her early life, nothing there about public service. Nothing. You can see her progression up the ladder, but we don't see any of her achievements. Because I read the rest. I'm going to leave it for there. She didn't even successfully get into the London Assembly. She was on the list. And when one of the Tories stood down, she got into the London Assembly. Now, could she be the end of the Conservative Party as we know it now? Aye. Definitely. But Keir Starmer, and before him, Tony Blair, was the end of the Labour Party that I knew as a boy. That's why I never had any interest in Labour or Conservatism. They'd moved away from my idea of left of centre socialism. They'd moved so far to the centre then to the right. And this further down the rabbit hole of neoliberal economics has never made any sense to me. There has to be a balance in the economy, and there has to be equality in the economy. Because if there isn't, then everything else that creates a successful, healthy, happy state isn't there. Because when that small percentage at the top hold all the wealth and believe in this trickle down economics, where it trickles to, they decide. They decide. Whereas in a more socialist, left of centre society, we actually vote for people who want to be in the public service to improve the lot of their friends and neighbours. People who understand that in order to have a successful economy, we must have a happy, healthy, well-educated and reasonably remunerated population. That's not where we're at in the UK as a whole. We're a wee bit more like it in Scotland, where we tend to still be a left-of-centre society. So we understand that throwing the burden on the least of us, instead of sharing it amongst us, would be to the detriment of our future, our own bloody future. And that's why we don't really protest at the notion of 6 tax bands, because we understand that if we share the burden, then right across our society, everybody's got the best chance of contributing, and we'll have a happy, healthy, well-educated population which can afford to pay our pensions, because there are companies worldwide and at home who are bossmen that want to employ us. We understand that. Left to centre is where we are in Scotland, and it's where we need to be. That's why we have that better social contract with our government than what they have down that road. That's why we have social care. That's why we have medicine free at the point of need. That's why we have free higher education. That's why we have all these health programs, including feeding kids in school, free sanitary products for women and girls in public buildings. That's why we give the children free bus travel. That's why we give our older people free bus travel 6 years before in England and Wales. That's why we don't make our people pay the bedroom tax. And when I say we, I mean us, the SNP, the party of government, that left-of-centre party, that left-of-centre moral compass here in Scotland. And it's not the Labour Party, it's us, the SNP. It was us that introduced all these programmes, including the baby box, the £275 for each kid, and families that need it for school uniforms. The amount of social programmes here in Scotland would scare the hair off the people in England and Wales. Scare the hair off them. No road tolls. No bridge tolls. Cheaper rail fare. Cheaper council tax. And that's because we have a good, smart executive along that road who are left of centre and who are SNP. I'll get Janey passing in a minute, Ange. I'll round it up with Janey passing, actually. I heard about it nearly the tear in my eye, especially when her daughter put that video out saying, "Get the door, Frank." Big lump in my throat. The people of Scotland need to get their head wrapped in this. We're a left-of-centre nation. And because we have a left-of-centre party in that parliament, who are actually a good administration, even if the leader at this point in time isn't he? An actual born leader. He's a bloody damn fine administrator. And it's because we have clever people in the SNP in that Parliament land there that we have all these bloody social programmes. We ain't going to get that under Labour. We've just seen that in the budget. They hammered anybody that they considered not to be contributing. They hammered the children. They hammered the students. They hammered the pensioners. And they hammered the disabled. Fucking tells you what they are. A bunch of right-wing fascist gits who couldn't give a fuck about the people. Whereas here in Scotland, we are social contract with our government. People here need to think twice. You know, to Janey passing. They will all be aware of Janey for a hell of a long time. Some years back to the days when she worked in the East End of Glasgow, in the pub next to Glasgow Green. Didn't really know her, just knew her as a cheery wee woman behind the bar any time I stopped in for a pint. Always trying to make people laugh. Then I didn't even associate her as a comedian for years later when it clicked in my head who she was. And then the Trump stunt, I thought that was fucking brilliant. That was 2017. And then, of course, the taking a piss out of Nicola. Choosing the pandemic with the voiceovers and get the door franked. And all the Shirleys and the big soup pot. That was just fucking brilliant. Then, of course, she finds out she's dying and goes on tour and laughs about it. Unbelievable. But more importantly, she was one of us. Left the centre. And determined to set herself free from the country next door. Because Labour just didn't do this to Scotland. They did it to England. They did it to Wales. And they did it to Northern Ireland. They whacked the least of us. And you measure a society by how well you treat the fucking least of us. The reason why we see the Tommy Robinson phenomenon down that road, and that shower of right-wing knuckle drivers that were out in London at the weekend, last weekend. The reason for that is they don't have their own parliament. So their nationalism has gone the wrong way. Rather than the English people rising up and turning on Westminster the way we are, the way the Welsh are, the Northern Irish, well, they're too busy fighting each other. But the English people have been forced to take this racist, nut job, right-wing, British value route because they don't know who they are anymore. And I blame that and them not having a devolved parliament. And the reason why they don't have a devolved parliament, because Westminster didn't want them to have a devolved parliament, because Westminster doesn't want to see itself as an entity with 4 countries as equals going at it. It wants to stay on top of its colonies, and that includes fucking England. The state has become an entity in its own, and it will do anything to protect itself, even take away our civil liberties and persecute the fucking least of us, because that's where we are. But the right-wing reaction and the Brit-nattery of Tommy Robertson and the racism of these people have been allowed to bubble to the fore because England doesn't have a voice. And England needs to get a fucking voice and realise that its parliament isn't Westminster. The state is Westminster and they're a fucking colony too. And they're being persecuted even more than the devolved legislators because we do have certain powers of our own, especially here in Scotland and Northern Ireland, where we have our own legal systems. There are drawbacks to being an entity such as the state. It's as fucking answerable to our law as we are theirs. They're trying to sort that at the moment right now. But if you want to take a judicial review against this government at this point in time, you don't fucking do it in England. You go to Belfast or Edinburgh. Because that's a fucking wise thing to do. Right. Let's see, on to Janey again, before I got in another rant. Should be remembered. Every now and again, there's something will come along and we'll all think, fuck, Janey would have got that right turn. Because she was good at that. Really good at it. But as I say, when her daughter did that wee social media video, and at the end it said, get a door front, I nearly bubbled there. So we'll leave it there. Kemi Badenoch is probably going to be the end of the Conservative Party as we know it. Same way Tony Blair was the end of the Labour Party as I knew it. As most people my age and older knew it. There's evolution in politics down that road, and I don't fucking like where it's going, folks. Have a nice Saturday. Oh, shit. Labour are losing by-elections left, right and centre.